is our ninth lesson on computer systems called virtual memory. So, as you remember, we are following the GCSE Computer Science OCR J277 specification. So, let's look at what is virtual memory and why do we need it. So, first of all, let's understand what it is. Virtual memory is a way a computer system can compensate for a shortage of RAM. Virtual memory is used when the computer has no more available RAM. In systems with small amount of memory installed or multiple applications open, the effect is typically a slowdown in performance known as a lag. In extreme cases, the systems may freeze or crash. To reduce the likelihood of this happening, computer systems allocate a portion of secondary storage as virtual memory. So, actually, what that last paragraph means is, for example, if you've got an old computer and which has got very small amount of main memory RAM, but modern applications often have, for example, if you're running a modern applications, they need a high amount of RAM requirement. Such applications on system with minimal main memory will lead to issues as applications compete with each other to access the RAM. So what is happening is basically what it is saying is that nowadays in modern computers you have got applications which need faster RAM or it needs more RAM requirement. And the older computers have is not possible for them to run these high class applications. And that's why they have to access virtual memory. So let's look at what is virtual memory and why do we need it. And we have already mentioned this um, in our in this last slide. So virtual memory enables data that is in RAM. Okay, so that is in RAM and not currently being used to be transferred to the hard disk. Now, what do I mean by that? So, for example, if I have been working on, say, for example, 4 applications, okay, and remember the computer can only work on one application at a time. So I have got 4 applications or 4 windows open. One is, say, Word, one is Excel, one is the internet, one is your Adobe, one is, or maybe 5 application, and one is your database. So there are 5 applications running on your computer. Now, all these 5 applications will not run together. They're giving you an illusion that they are running together. They're not. You are working on one application at a time. So what happens that if you are not using, say, for example, Adobe for a while, it will do something called swapping. It will move into RAM and then come back from RAM. It's basically it's an in and out situation. So virtual memory enables data that is in RAM and not currently being used to be transferred to the hard disk. That's what all that meant. This frees up room in RAM for other programs and data. When the data on the hard disk is needed again, any other unused data is transferred to the hard disk before the original data is transferred back to RAM. This process, as I explained you earlier on, is known as swapping. So there are times when the amount of RAM needed to hold all running programs and data is greater than the amount of RAM available on the computer. So when this happens, part of the computer's secondary storage, such as the hard disk, can be used to store data temporarily. Virtual memory enables data that is in RAM and not currently being used to be transferred to the hard disk. This frees up room in RAM for other programs and data. So let's understand this in detail. So, how does RAM work? The computer stores running programs and data in RAM when your computer is turned on. So remember, we have in our previous video, we did talk about that when you switch on your computer, what happens is the RAM is empty. Okay. As soon as you press your computer, as soon as you press the button, what happens? That RAM, okay, starts talking to ROM. Now, if you remember from my previous video, ROM has got our bootstrap, okay, and it has got our operating system. So as soon as you switch on your computer, the operating system, first of all, the bootstrap will check that all your hardwares are working, your mice, your other hardware is working properly, your keyboard, etc. Then what happens that the operating system moves into RAM. So operating system has moved into RAM. So at when you started your computer, this RAM was empty. As you can see, it was empty. There was nothing in it. As soon as you switched on your computer, the operating system is loaded into. When they both start talking, which I explained you in my previous slide, when they start talking to each other, the operating system is loaded into RAM. So what has it done? It's taken a space in your RAM. Now RAM has got slots of memories, okay, like this. It's got slots, and it has taken your operating system has taken one slot. Okay. Now I decide to open lot of programs. So already operating system has taken a big chunk of my RAM. Then I open Word, then I open Excel, then I open clipboard, then I've got documents which are in use. And now I start using, say, for example, I want to use the browser. What do I do? If I need the browser now, I want to open the browser, but the RAM is already full. So what am I going to do? The thing which comes into play is called virtual memory. This is what comes into action. Not action, but comes into play. So this is what is happening. Virtual memory is part of the hard drive used as an extension of RAM. So virtual memory is actually an extension of RAM. So this is what a virtual memory is, an extension of RAM. So if many processes are running and the computer has insufficient RAM, lots of time is spent swapping pages in and out of virtual memory. So what is happening that if I'm not using Excel, it will come into virtual memory and the browser will go there. So remember, only one application, you can only work on one application. So might be that you have got 30 applications open, but you can only work on one application at a time. It is giving you an illusion that you're working on these 30 applications, but you're not. So what is happening that it keeps on going in and out. This is your RAM. Keeps going in and out, in and out. And what this is going in and out is causing your computer to slow down. And this is known as disk crashing. Keyword to remember, disk crashing. Okay. So, how is virtual memory implemented? Virtual memory is implemented on the hard disk if when there is not enough memory available. That's how it is implemented. Remember this. This is how it is implemented, and what was what is going to happen is operating system moves data when some processes are not needed immediately out of RAM to store them in virtual memory. That's what I explained it to you. So if you are not using, say for example, clipboard for a while, it will move to virtual memory here in this. That's what actually that all that means. So uh, copies of the data back into RAM when the process is needed again. Transfer between the two being made automatically as required. So so I'll show you an image. You can clearly see this is just an image. So here you've got your hard disk, and there you've got your virtual memory. You're using your programs, and they move in and out memory. So, what are the drawbacks of virtual memory? Using virtual memory makes a computer run slower as the processor has to wait while data is swapped between hard disk and RAM. So, what is happening here? The processor has to wait because they are swapping. In computing terms, it is taking time. So, it is going to wait. That's the drawback. Okay. Virtual memory can have negative impacts on performance. We might have limited space in secondary storage. Crashing is a phenomena where a computer with little RAM always alternates between virtual and physical memory. Also, performances lag may result from the computer becoming slower as a result. A computer's available memory is usually decreased if it has little secondary storage. So, let's recap. Virtual memory is used when the computer has no more RAM available. Let's look at an exam question. A computer only has 2 gigabytes of RAM. Alicia says that virtual memory can be used instead of adding more RAM. Explain how virtual memory can compensate for the lack of RAM in Alicia's computer. So remember, you link this with the scenario. So how would you answer that? You will say, Alicia can compensate the lack of RAM by when virtual memory is used when RAM is full. Okay, virtual memory is used when RAM is full. Data from RAM is moved to the secondary storage. RAM can then be filled with new data. When data in virtual memory is needed, it is moved back to RAM. This is how you always link your answer with your scenario. Next question, explain why it would be beneficial for Alicia to get more RAM instead of relying on virtual memory. So if you had understood what virtual memory is, you would be able to answer this question. Because remember, virtual memory will slow your computer down. It will also cause disk crashing, and also it will decrease the performance of your computer.